Yes, I was tempted to put the counter question, what Middle East peace process? Because we are all frustrated by the lack of any real progress at the moment. And there should be a much more stronger sense of urgency, because time is not on the side of those who want to see a peaceful progress towards the two-state solution, which so far is the only viable, acceptable show in town, so to speak. The second question, why has the EU been unable to talk with a single voice on the Middle East, is a very pertinent question. And I will try to address it by speaking more generally about the problems that the European Union today has with its common foreign and security policy, because it is not something which is only evident in the Middle East. It is something which is seriously hampering the effectiveness of the EU's role in the world today. We are not only disappointing our own people, our own ambitions, but we are also disappointing other people in the world who expect, with all reason, that the EU should have a stronger role and be able to exert its influence in better global management, in conflict prevention, and in crisis management. And having returned after an absence of 4 years to the Foreign External Relations Council of the European Union, I was, and I have said this openly on many other occasions too, I was rather dismayed that not only has there been no progress in the EU's common foreign and security policy, actually we have seen a diminishing of the common engagement to working together. And I'm very disappointed with this. And this is the case, notwithstanding the fact that with the Lisbon Treaty now in force, we have gained some more new instruments for the EU's foreign policy, the External Action Service. We have the High Representative, and as Vice President of the Commission, and thereby doing away with the competition which was unfortunately all too evident in previous times when the Commission had a separate External Affairs Commissioner and the High Representative was representing the EU's common foreign and security policy. Now that we have done away with this competition, everybody expected that the EU would be able to work much more efficiently and coordinatedly in its foreign and external relations. Unfortunately, this has not been the case. And although we have done away with the competition between the External Affairs Commissioner and the High Representative, I'm sorry to say that the High Representative has been unable to really exert a strong role as Vice President of the Commission, which means that there are several other commissioners in the Commission who deal with external relations, humanitarian affairs, development, foreign trade issues, enlargement, and they have a very independent role. And there is still, unfortunately, a lack of cohesion. And the External Action Service has not really gotten off to a very good start. One reason was that before the entry into force of the Lisbon Treaty, no one was really allowed to make any preparations for the External Action Service. And that is why it has taken an extraordinarily long time to get it off the ground. And we are still experiencing the situation where not all the instruments that we have after the Lisbon Treaty are in effect working as they should. But the main reason for the EU's lack of strength in this field is the lack of commitment from the member states, because the treaty did not change the fact that for the EU to be able to work together, it has to have the will to do so, because common foreign and security policy can be only decided unanimously. Now, I don't think that we can in the foreseeable future see a change to this, since nobody wants, apart from the euro crisis, of course, to start yet another intergovernmental conference and proceedings for a new treaty change. And even if that were the case, I don't think that this would be the primary item on that agenda. So we will have to do with that. But that is not really a basic hindrance for the EU's effectiveness, because it is up to the member states. Do we want to have the EU play a role or not? And at times, there has been a stronger commitment from the member states to working together, because particularly I base my case on the experiences from the Lebanon war during our presidency in 2006. That was a time when the EU was able to play some sort of leading role, because other international actors were, for several reasons, unable to fulfill that role. And it was up to the EU to working together with the UN and the Secretary General Kofi Annan to exert its influence and bring an end to that conflict and see a new strengthened UNIFIL put into place. That was not easy, because also then member states representatives, foreign ministers came to the meetings with very strong opinions that this is our red line, this is our red line, and they didn't seem to meet anywhere. But nevertheless, there was a feeling that we could not come out of these meetings without coming to a single position, because otherwise nobody would take us seriously. That is still the case, but unfortunately people seem to care less about the EU's engagement. And member states, particularly the biggest member states, seem to use the EU only and when it particularly suits their needs, but not as a prior commitment that we have to have a common position. And that has clearly diminished the possibilities of the EU to exert its influence, not only on the Middle East peace process, but on other items as well. I hope that we will see better times in the future again. Certainly the Middle East peace process would need a strong input from the European Union. For the European Union, our position on the Middle East peace process is very clear, and it was only a year ago very strongly again formulated by the External Affairs Council, laying down the basic parameters which have been there for a long time for getting to the putting into effect the two-state solution. But unfortunately, no progress has been made. It has been up to the quartet, of course, the UN, EU, USA, and Russia to work on this process. But even in the quartet, there are, as well known, different opinions, and the quartet has not been able to function as it should have. And therefore, we are stalled in the Middle East regarding the peace process. And that was understandable reasons why the Palestinians wanted to take their case to the United Nations. Now, I don't think that we should blame anyone for taking their problems to the United Nations. That is not unilateralism. That is multilateralism by definition, because the UN is the place where all outstanding conflicts and disagreements should be dealt with. But having said this, of course, it's another question whether the way that this has been done is necessarily always helpful. And it is a well-known fact that we, Finland, and all our EU partners and the EU counseled the Palestinians against going to the Security Council, not because it wasn't their right, it is certainly their right, but we did not think that it would actually make any progress there. We knew that there would be at least one veto, but now it seems that there will not be even the 9 votes in favor of Palestinian membership, which would even necessitate the use of a veto. And that is certainly not helpful to the two-state solution cause. Secondly, we also made it clear that going to the United Nations, we would have wanted to see and still want to see the General Assembly address the issue and be able to pass a resolution which would recognize the progress made by the Palestinians in their state building as far as has been possible under conditions of continued occupation, and that their status in the UN should be upgraded, but with the resolution making it absolutely clear that the UN resolution is no substitute for negotiations and a negotiated peace, because that is the only way that the two-state solution can be run. But with these parameters, I'm sure, and I remain confident that it is possible, perhaps in January, for the General Assembly to return to the issue and pass such a resolution, hopefully in a form which will enable the EU, hopefully again all of us, but certainly the clear majority of the EU member states to vote for such a resolution. Now we all know that the Palestinians have such support in the UN that they can get almost any resolution they propose passed. But again, I think it will be absolutely vital for the Palestinian cause and the two-state solution to have a resolution which the EU will also be able to support, because that will give it much greater weight. And I hope that the EU will be able to agree on this if and when it comes to the General Assembly. But at the moment, the Quartet is once again trying to move forward. It has set a timetable for the negotiations and each of the next steps. But so far, we do not have the parties sitting together, because, and this is, I think, also quite understandable, and a clear European position that for the parties to be able to return to the negotiating table, illegal settlement activities have to be stopped. This is not a precondition for negotiation. It is just respecting international law, which has always been the European position and the United Nations position, and past also founded in many Security Council resolutions. So that is not a concession to make. It is establishing the normal rules for being able to move forward.